Hey everyone, Alex Wilson from Toronto Penthouse Living, and today we're with Sam Mizrahi, president of Mizrahi Development and builder of the iconic The One. So everyone here's Sam. So Sam, why don't we talk about, first of all, what got you into real estate development?
I had a passion for it from a very young age and wanted to express my art in terms of architecture and design, and saw that Toronto was an incredible place with a mosaic of cultures and immigrants that came to Canada, and I wanted to see how we could develop buildings that were of international stature, international architecture, and I didn't see any of the type of buildings that we would see in Paris or in London or in New York and so forth in Toronto in the last 10, 15 years, and said, there's a niche market here, there's a market in which Toronto's now an international city, and how do we add to that international presence of Toronto now being an international city and bring international architecture to the country and to the city.
Yeah, and you started out in custom home building, and I feel that, as you said, presenting your art, you brought custom home building to the condo world in essence, and as you were talking about making Toronto as a global recognized city with its global architecture, we are in one of your buildings right now, 181 Davenport, and before we got in the camera we were talking and your inspirations wise, and I was saying how I love how it curves with Davenport, and I feel like I'm in a European city, and some of the what was the inspiration?
The inspiration was really, I looked at Davenport, and it is a curved street at Hazelton as it comes around to New Street and Bay. And I got inspired basically with the buildings in Paris and Haussmann specifically during the Napoleon era. And if you go to Paris and you look at all the different districts in Paris and you look at the architecture of Paris, especially with what Haussmann did, you had these incredible timeless buildings that were all mid-rise buildings by definition. And the architecture of the building really was fluid, and it was in concert with the streetscape. So it didn't necessarily mean typical standard architecture to come in and build a symmetrical building on a asymmetrical street. You could actually use the landscape of the streets and of the city and start to curve buildings and have the architecture of the building really become symbiotic with the streetscape of the city. And Davenport's a great example of that with a curved street. We actually curved the building to go into concert with the streetscape.
Yeah, no, it flows nicely. Yeah. And for you, it doesn't stop on the outside.
It's
with the custom home building mentality that you came from, the finishes in your buildings are
home.
Second to none, yeah.
Yeah, so that was another area that we saw that we could add a lot of value. Was there was an issue where a lot of homeowners didn't want to sell their homes to move into a condo because they said, I don't want to compromise or give up the space that I have. And not, everybody's downsizing is to actually reduce square footage. In a lot of cases, we have people that want to replace their homes into a condo but have the same amount or close to the same amount of space because they're interested in the lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly.
And not having the burdens of home ownership, especially in climate like Canada and with travel and so forth. So I looked at what we can do to create a home in a condominium lifestyle building rather than compromises that would come traditionally to what we've seen in typical buildings. And what does that mean? Well, that means building a custom home in each unit. So not having a cookie cutter space where you get 4 options, this is it, having columns and pillars in the way. We wanted to create a space where the homeowner can truly custom design their home. They can have a finger in the entire design process with us and feel that it's personal and it's intimate because it is the most important investment. And at the same time, the finishes and the details are at a level that if I was to blindfold you and bring you into one of our units, and I, shut the drapes and the screens that you can't see that you're on the 50th or 30th or the 9th floor, you would look around at the finishes inside the suite and you'd say, oh, I'm in a Rosedale home or a Forestdale home or in a Bridle Path home. You wouldn't know the difference. Where in typical buildings, you go in there and you look around, you know I'm in an apartment or in a condo.
Exactly, and I like how you touched on there's no pillars in the building. So I think we'll go into and talk about you want to make Toronto a global center for real estate and architecture and excellence. And I think that's where we got to bring in the architect that you brought in for this building.
Norman Foster and Foster and Partners.
One of the top architects in the world.
I would agree.
Exactly, and designing this building. So one one of the main differential factors of this building is the exoskeleton of the building. There are no pillars because the actual structure of the building is what's supporting the building.
Externally. And that came to not only building and having architectural excellence, but it was form and function, or function and form, depending on how you look at it. And what we were after was to develop, there's a retail component to this. So one of it was to create a high street retail on Bloor Street to compete with Fifth Avenue, Michigan Avenue in Chicago, Ginza in Tokyo, Hong Kong, London's Knightsbridge. And Toronto had not yet developed the retail even to compete internationally with global flagship retailers who wanted to come in. So we were the first to create a retail format that had no columns, no pillars, what we call uncontaminated space, where the retailer can come in, build a super flagship store, and create a pedestrian experience at grade that was never seen in Canada before, but seen globally in other international cities. That manifested it into the residential to create an excellence in the residential, where again you had no columns, no pillars. It was really uncontaminated space that the homeowner can come in and custom design, and you had line of sight where you come into your home and you can see endless views in any angle because you didn't have these round columns that you normally typically see in the building. So how do you create a structural engineering process like this that it's not atypical, it's something very unique? And we went into this exoskeleton model where the structural engineering of the building's on the outside and it allows you to have ultimate flexibility on the inside. And it was really not been done before in Canada, but it's been done globally around the world. And Norman Foster is one of the premier and brainchilds of this type of design and architecture, and it was a natural fit. And we created something that is really iconic and one of a kind, and it serves not only the functionality of the engineering, but it also serves the homeowner to be able to have spaces that you normally wouldn't be able to have.
Yeah, you really get to maximize the square footage of the unit, because you're not trying to figure out, okay, now I get this massive column.
Correct.
Because you want, if you're getting a premier unit, I want the corner unit.
Right.
That's
and I don't want to see a column.
And you get the column, and now I'm trying to design my whole unit around the column. You don't have that. You have a full open space.
Correct. It's innovative. It's innovative.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of innovation, I love how you talk about your elevators. It's a little thing, but
there's a lot of great things. I mean, the elevators are going to be the first machine learning elevators that are being deployed in Canada. This is part of the artificial intelligence that's going into the building. And essentially what these elevators will do is start to learn the building's lifestyle and habits. So it'll know that you're coming into the building or you're going to leave the building at 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, and what days you're leaving at that time, what days you're leaving at 11 a.m. And the machine learning starts to learn the behavior of the building and the inhabitants of the building. And the elevators start to float in the building at the floors and the levels that need to be based on the times that it understands you and what your needs are. So this eliminates wait times for elevators, especially on an 85-story building. We have the fastest elevators going in, which are at 1,500 feet a minute. So you can think about it, we're over 1,000 feet. You're in less than a minute, you're from the top of the building down, which is faster than most of the buildings in 9-story buildings. And the machine learning is also going into the climate control systems of the building, all of this, and it's really using the next generation, what we call AI, that's going into it. Plus, the building will have an app, which will be a part of the fob that's built into your smartphone, so it identifies you, it'll have facial recognition, it'll have a number of features into it where you can control your home, your security system, all of these details.
Which I was recently in Chicago and I saw some of that technology there, and
it's amazing.
And it shows you how behind the times a little bit that we are in Toronto, and that you were in
not
the forefront.
Anymore.
Exactly. Exactly. You're bringing this worldwide vision to that. So speaking of 85 stories in the building wise, but I think what I like about this, you're 85 stories, but in other buildings you may be 1,000 plus units of that height.
Correct. So we say we're an 85-story building. We're actually, it's more like over 100 stories because our ceiling heights are so high as well. Plus, we're only 416 units. In most buildings of this size, which there aren't any, but even if you took them at less size, at a lower height, they have in excess of 700, 800 units in the building. We're less than half of that.
Yep.
And the reason for that is the units are large. They're real homes. They're not just apartments in a building. These are real homes, real end users, and their lifestyle.
Exactly.
And so it's developing something that is very unique. And the 416, the 416 units, we did that intentionally. They said to me, well, why didn't you pick 420? Why didn't you pick 410? And I did that just, again, everything, there was a a reason to it. And 416 being the area code of Toronto, I thought it was great to have that in terms of the units.
And I'll hammer down again on the 416, a number of units in the building. This building is focused on creating homes for people with the larger floor plates, the 2 bedrooms, the 3 bedroom units.
And some 4 bedroom units.
And 4 bedroom units and large penthouses in the building. It's really accommodating to getting that person that lives in that large home. Let's get them out of the home. Let's have them here in a centralized location. They can live here for 6 months. They can live somewhere else for 6 months. And another aspect of the building, which is really world class, it's pure valet parking.
Correct.
Yeah.
And in a building of this caliber and size, we looked at it and we said, most of the residents, we're putting in really 5-star boutique amenities into the building. So you're going to have 24/7 concierge services, 24/7 security, doorman services. Again, what we see in international cities. If you look at the high-end buildings in Manhattan or even the co-ops, you've got doormans, you have valet, you have concierge, you have security. You look at buildings in Chicago and London, New York, same thing. And Toronto really didn't have that in the scale that we are. And the valet parking is a must because it gives you, again, that freedom to be able to just drop off the car. You built a rapport relationship, and we're managing the building. And it's really creating a lifestyle association that you would experience in a 5-star boutique hotel, and except that it's your home, you own it.
Yeah.
And so that's a very unique proposition, again, not seen.
And I'll talk about that a little more. Whenever I go to visit to New York, I had a good friend that lived in Tribeca. He had a beautiful 2,500 square foot condo, and I would go in. The concierge would remember me the last time I visited 6 months ago. He's like, "Here's the key, Mr. Wilson." Very well professionally dressed. It felt great. I felt welcome. And then whenever I visit a building here, it would be a battle to get anything from the front desk, or maybe they don't take keys, and I'm like, this is more a glorified security guard as opposed to that white glove service, and that's what you're bringing in. I know you're bringing it here. So
we are.
It is.
It's a rapport, and it's getting to know you and the building, and the people that we have running the building at the one are basically full out 5-star, as I say, like hotel concierge. It's basically the golden keys that you see that most concierges have. They build a relationship with you and the residents, and for them, this is it's a career. It's a passion.
Exactly.
It's not a job. It's a career, and it's a professional one, and one that we take very seriously. And it adds to, again, the value system of the building and what we're creating, and that value system extends to the management and the day-to-day operations of the building, right down to the concierge, right down to the security, right down to the doorman, and knowing you. And they're there to really protect that value system and to create an experience that you call home.
And I want to talk a little bit about the retail component you're planning for the building, because the residential units start on the 20th floor.
19th floor.
19th floor residential.
Yeah.
So below that we have
18 floors of commercial.
Exactly. So I know we've talked about some of the restaurants and everything. Why don't you give me some more of that experience?
So the ground floor, we have a major international global retail tenant that's going in, that occupies the ground floor and one level of the concourse below. We have the connectivity underneath on the concourse as well. And then we have 2 floors of restaurants, including one at grade, with a more of a international flavor, where we got the best operators, I would say, in Canada operating them and creating an international experience of hospitality there. Plus, we have an event space on one of the floors for events, functions, corporate functions, celebrations, things like that. And then we have the arrival into the hotel, which we own as well, and there'll be between 165 to 185 hotel rooms. Again, lifestyle boutique, and then that takes us up to the 18th floor, and that basically is 100% of the commercial. So you've got the hotel services, the hotel amenities in a lifestyle boutique, high-end environment. The hospitality and the restaurant spaces, again, to serve it, plus I would say one of the most important retail tenants in the world that anchors it.
And we haven't even talked about the fact that you have the best piece of real estate in the city of Toronto. And lots of people claim to have the best piece of real estate, but you have the best piece of real estate where you're developing this project. And when we say developing, it's a hole in the ground right now, and they're building up from it. So this building is under construction. You are on the southwest corner of Yonge and Bloor. You have the Yonge subway line, you have the Bloor subway running north, south, east, west. flowing into the Mink Mile, so the top shopping destination in Canada. And then if you want to go out for dinner, you go into some of the top restaurants as well in Canada, in Yorkville Village and everything like that.
It's, I would say it's the most coveted address in Canada, not even in Toronto. It is the best real estate corner in Toronto. I would also say that it's the best place to live because you can walk out your front door and literally walk to the best restaurants in the city. You can walk to the theater, movie theaters. You can walk to the best shopping district in Toronto. You can walk to the grocery stores. You've got Whole Foods. You've got Italy opening up.
Italy. McEwen's right across the street.
Right across, and Italy's across the street. Pusateri's. You have all the best high-end shopping there is. You have the museums. You've got the best university, within walking distance. You have the best hospitals in the world, within 10, 15-minute walk or 5-minute drive. So you've really created an environment that is a real pied-à-terre where you can walk out your front door and have the best of the best, basically including the best shopping, with Holt Renfrew across the street and Manulife and everything else and all the other shops.
So inside you have the best of the best, and outside you have the best of the best.
But it gets even better. Then you have the Young Bloor subway line, which is literally across the street and with a path connection connecting it. And you can go from the building underground to Toronto Pearson Airport and never come outside, or go from Pearson and come to the building without ever coming outside, or be able to travel to any part of the city and using the tube and basically the subway platform, and it's at your front doorstep, which is really giving you the best of both worlds. And in most buildings, there's always some compromise where you have this, but you don't have the access to the transportation the same way.
Do you even know that word? Compromise?
No.
No, I didn't think you knew the definition. I didn't think
our
compromise can't. I don't think Sam uses those words.
No, it's a no compromise. And this building really, in all the buildings we do, but specifically in this one, there are no compromises in this building. It has every aspect of what makes something greater. And we made a point of ensuring that there was no area that it didn't serve greatly, right? From transportation to subway to walk to valet parking to the concierge, to the security of the building, to the customization of the units. And you also get the ability to come in buildings of this size, you rarely do you get the ability to come in and customize your own home and to actually create a custom home. And that's another element of this where the homeowner has a magic wand to come in and actually custom design their home, pick their finishes. And if there's something that we don't have in the selection process, which has rarely happened, and they found it, we'll incorporate it.
Well, and I think we should highlight that again. I know we talked about it at the beginning of the video, but because you have a custom home builder background, other developers aren't really open to customization.
No.
They like to just,
cookie cutter
all the way up.
Formula build.
Because it gets expensive for them. It's more difficult. But because you have that mindset and that's what you come from, you welcome it and encourage it in regards.
It was what I learned with, and is what the whole foundation of the company was based on in this custom home background that we did, throughout the city and the GTA, and that really flowed through into our buildings. And we said, no, every suite is unique, every home is unique, and it should be as unique as the individual that purchases it. And so, to create something that's formula built or to give only 4 options, to me, is not luxury and it's not custom. And if you're gonna, be in the space of luxury and customization and to create an international class of building, you have to give that magic wand to the homeowner and let them express to you what luxury defines to them on an individual, one-by-one basis. And that's what we've done. And
I think, and I'll go back into location-wise and just something that came in my head as I'm sitting here and looking out the window and seeing the trees. We're not right downtown.
No,
we're Midtown. Should we call this Midtown? I'm not sure. What should we call this? Central?
Yeah, I think Midtown is the right word. Midtown. I would say it's Midtown. Young and Bloor is Midtown.
But what it is we're on the cusp of the end of the downtown. So the buildings stop, and now we go into residential neighborhoods. So if you just walk a few blocks, we get into residential treed streets.
You have parks. You've got Ramsden Park, which is one of the largest parks. You've got off-leash dog walking trails on there. You've got tennis courts, ice skating rinks, tennis. You've got jogging areas. You've got residential neighborhoods. You have you're in the nexus of the city, yet you still have the intimacy of the parks and the residential low-rise neighborhoods, all within a walk of where you live. And then at the same time, you have the seclusion of being able to come into your unit, be in the center nexus of Midtown Toronto, and have a cocoon of insulation of sound, acoustics, and so forth, because all the windows are all sound acoustic insulated. They've got very high SDC ratings. You basically shut off the outside world in your home, and it becomes your sanctuary. And at the same time, you're in the action if you want to be, and to have the animation of City of Toronto and the best. And you can remove yourself from it, and within a couple of minutes be in a park and relax, or in a couple of minutes be in a residential neighborhood and have a walk, or go anywhere else in the city within moments in time.
So ultimately, if you're choosing to give up that large house, you don't have to sacrifice on giving up the residential feel, because it is all around you, and you're trying to create an environment where people will feel like they're home with the staff that you're employing.
Correct.
Doorman's going to know your name. The concierge is going to know your name.
The valet parking knows. They know your family.
Everyone's going to know who you are. Exactly.
You're compromising on nothing. You're actually getting more than you would in your own home, and you're gaining freedom in a way of not only time, but not having to deal with the burdens of home ownership, such as landscaping, snow removal, ice, roof repairs, and things like this. Which is fine, and it's fun, in certain phases.
Who says it's fun?
Certain chapters in your life.
It wasn't fun this winter. It was not fun this winter. There was lots of snow this winter.
But there's certain times where your time is so precious now, and everyone's time is really precious now, and to utilize that time to be able to use it for your family and for your travel and for your business and for your other important interests, and not to have that burden. It just opens up a whole new world.
Time is the most valuable currency.
Asset you have.
Money is just the ability to open up more time, and that's what this building has. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, anything else we should cover on this, or?
We're very grateful and very proud to be doing what we're doing, and it's been an amazing journey, and just can't wait to have the homeowners go in and have the experience and the vision of what we saw, and I think it's going to really place Toronto on the international stage, and I hope that this will inspire many more buildings like this in the future.
And I'll end this off. The building is under construction right now.
Yeah, we started construction.
This is not a hypothetical.
No.
It's
we started construction
right
in June 2017. So we're under construction now 2 years, going on to 2 years, and we just finished all the shoring as of today's date and the underground, and we're working our way up, and we're scheduled for 2023.
There you go. So if you're interested in making this new home, we're just a short 3 years away from this being a reality. So send me an email, Alex@Toronto Penthouse Living. We'll book you an appointment at the sales center, and we'll introduce you to the one. Well, thank you, Sam, so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Talk soon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Great. Nice and easy.